Thirdly, in terms of series undefeated, they currently hold an 8 and 2 zeros and 3 1-1s, 0-2 ratio. Whereas CE, they've been 2-0'd 4 times now. It's the lowest out of all of the top 4 teams. Actually, the most 2-0s out of all the top 4 teams. Even more 2-0s than Beyond the Game. Beyond the Game just have a lot more ties.
Exactly. So in terms of like which team looks more beatable out of the top 4, as you said, Tetra, CE is definitely the one that, if they're on a bad day, they can be beaten even by an A team. If A team is having a really good day today, you know, everybody's playing their A game, then they can certainly do it. However, how is CE gonna show up today? That's the big question, right? They have their moments of glory. Sorry?
You should be careful how you word that, because what you ended up saying there accidentally was they could be beaten by an A team.
Oh, I see what you did. Took
Which,
me a little
honestly,
while.
at the moment, I would say Tempo Storm versus CE would probably be a very one-sided matchup in favor of Tempo Storm. But against the one, I very much am doubting it. But CE could take out a victory, especially if they have improved a little bit more from yesterday. If they've taken what they learned against the one and they're going to bring it into this match, they should be able to squish the A team. But the A team, like we've said before, they keep getting better from game to game to game.
That is correct. And wait a minute.
We're on the most today.
Okay, so we're gonna have to do some clearing. We're gonna have to do some
okay, cool.
Some talking here. Because if that is true, ladies and gentlemen, we might have swapped patches from Monday to Tuesday.
We have. Ladies and gentlemen, the first tournament, the first HGC match to run the up-to-date patch with buffed Raider, buffed Asmo, buffed Alex Strasser is what I'm excited about, and the triple ban phase. We are in it, and look who's been targeted. Right now, a Lethal Zero Pool has been wrecked.
Oh my god. And the question remains...
He's on Phoenix today.
Yeah, and the question remains, who has practiced Jim Raynor the most? Because, well, yippee-ki-yay, he's back in town. The Marshal is here, and we need to talk about those changes as well, Tetra, right? We have a completely new Raynor, a new Asmodan if teams are willing to pick it up. As you said, a buffed Alex Strasser, the Life Binder is a little stronger right now. Could maybe make for some Cho'Gall participation here, but of course we need to see how that's exactly done.
Yeah. Can we not call it Season 2 anymore, by the way? Can we just, what season are we on? 5, 6?
You mean in Hero League or in HGC?
In HGC China.
This should be Season 3? I don't know.
I guess. Like I think it's like Season 2 Phase.
You mean okay?
Yeah, Season 2 Phase 1. There we go.
Exactly.
So
that is correct.
So can we just call it Seasoning 2 because it's time to give them some pepper?
Oh, it's time to give them some pepper. That's for sure. I'm loving it. I am loving it. All right.
Jimmy here and Jimmy there in the ban phase, as he is taken out very quickly. The rest of the draft, though, so far looking fairly normal. We're still seeing Phoenix, so Alufal does have a hero on the board, as well with the Deckard Cain. Diablo's stolen away, although it was picked first, so the Phoenix could have been a reactionary pick to deny that away. And then we have the Malfurion and Yarel onto the board as well.
So this might be a very interesting time for not only the viewers out there, but also maybe some pro players watching and checking out the triple ban system in professional environment in China over there. So a really cool moment here. So feel free to spread the word, guys. If you know someone who might be interested, get him in here, get him over here, and let's watch the goodness of the new patch of the new changes to pro play with a triple ban here together. Now, False Step being locked in. Map is Sky Temple, by the way, for those of you who missed it. Deckard Cain, Dehaka, double global actually going in for CE. So a very European style of drafting it, I might want to say.
Very smart. Genji and Tracer are gone. Two heroes who are fantastic in terms of very fast ganks and rotations. So removing them is a great idea. So instead, with all of it, it's 6 assassins being banned here. So as such, we are dipping into heroes like the Greymane, who is going to come out here for the A-team, and they also do bring out the Junkrat, who is a little bit more standard these days.
Yeah, now see, of course, they still need a pick for Wind, right? They still need a main tank for that. Muradin is still available. Diablo was picked by A-team. Garrosh could be picked as well, although Garrosh traditionally hasn't really been doing that well as of late. And they go for the Muradin.
I'm very surprised the tanks weren't banned. I thought tanks would be focused a little bit more than assassins here, but I guess this makes sense looking at the particular assassins that have been banned.
I mean, Raynor makes sense, right? He's currently an absolute savage in both Hero League and, of course, competitive play. I could imagine he is wrecking places as well. So for the A-team, I mean, they were target banning Alufal, right? And that is something that was predicted to be done a lot more. Like, you can now target individual players a lot more with 3 bans, you know, being in the room. Maybe the enemy team is also going to ban an assassin or so. In that case, you actually tackle Alufal quite a bit. Unfortunately for the A-team, the Phoenix was still left available. And that's actually been the hero that Alufal has been spamming like hardly any other assassin in the league.
Yeah, Hanzo was also still available, so he might have actually been able to lock that in if that had been taken. If it had been taken away, he had options. But either way, now we have the drafts, and they still look solid. Still looks reasonable. I'm still very much liking CEs, though. They have some slows in the form of Decade-Came, Decade-Came Hereditary Cube, the Hammerang from Falstad, and Muradin Thunderclap. So they have some slows to set up for a Purification Salvo. They have double global, so XP soak should be 0 issue.
Yeah.
They have boss control in the form of Mighty Gust, which should be absolutely fantastic. I think in terms of a Sky Temple draft, CE have just hit a home run here, whereas A-Team have just gone, well, we're not going to out-macro, might as well fight.
Yeah, very true. Especially if you think about heroes like Greymane, right, who are so good at picking people, blowing them up, especially if the CC lands perfectly from the other heroes in their draft. Speaking of that Mighty Gust, by the way, Tetra, I could see, like, if things go really well for CE and they find a good angle to execute this maneuver, I could see a Mighty Gust into the backline, and then with the ensuing slow, you would have a wonderful setup for a Purification Salvo.
Oh yeah, it does slow, doesn't it?
It does slow at the end of it, yeah, for, I don't know, like 1 or 2 seconds. It's pretty sweet, actually.
An excellent point, Mr. Kendrick. Does each pulse of Wind Tunnel also re-initiate the slow?
That it should.
Oh, it's just level 20 Wind Tunnel, put him in a corner. Beep, 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 beep. And
I mean,
dead.
That would be the dream, right? The purified wind tunnel, I want to call it, because nothing else will be standing there in that point afterwards.
I'm going to call it the breath of fresh air.
The breath of fresh air. Breath of fresh Protoss air. I like it. Do Protoss even breathe?
They don't eat. So I assume so. They don't wear helmets. So they have like well, they do wear helmets, but I don't think they're part
maybe someone can hook us up here. Someone who really knows the lore in StarCraft 2. Yeah,
do they photosynthesize? Is it just the color that sustains them? In which case, how does it work for?
I don't know if they're trees, man. Maybe night elves do that. I don't know. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go into game number 1 here between CE and the A-Team. We're getting deployed to Sky Temple. And let's introduce those teams a little more to you so you know who you're watching and what they're playing. It is CE with Alufal on that Phoenix, Winners on the Muradin, 365 on Decker-Kane, KTY plays Dehaka, and Juyi on the Fellow Dwarf on Falstad.
And on the right-hand side, it is the A-Team with Jaina on Junkrat, Olele on the Greymane, Bruiser on Yrel, Stukov on Malfurion, and Kaidu is playing Diablo.
All right, and the A-Team, man, that is a team to be on the lookout for. Not only are they getting much better results as of late, being a new team in the league, coming from the Crucible, mind you, but also their draft here, I think, looks really solid. Actually, you can see what KTY is doing here. He's staying in that bush after using Brush Stalker. He's not capturing the Vision Tower because he was potentially baiting in enemies to actually follow in there. And if the enemy team, if A-Team had seen that the Vision Tower was captured already, they wouldn't even have gone there because they would have expected a Dehaka to be there. So, cute little move. Unfortunately, A-Team not falling for it in the first place, so nothing really happened off this. Now, we see a couple of build variations here already on the talents for the A-Team. We see the Empowered Moonfire at level 1 providing a longer reveal and a stronger basic attack for Malfurion if he hits those reveals targets. So not going for Nature Swiftness, which is like the normal thing to do. And then we also see the Soul Shield for Diablo, trying to get a little more resilient against all that ability damage coming in from CE.
And First Blood acquired. Overpower into the Entangling Roots. Easy pickup. Nicely done. And the joy of Greymane as your damage dealer, because he does not need to build up to burst damage. He is the burst damage.
Going for a little Heisenberg impression. I like it. I am.
That was not meant to be an
damage.
impression. I could try the impression.
All right. I like it. Irel, of course, needs to be talked about as well here real quick. She's still an absolute indomitable force. She wasn't really touched that much at all, actually, with the most recent balance update that saw a rework for Asmodan and Raynor. So she's still that strong soul laner that we know her to be. In the meantime, we see a mercenary push coming down in that bottom lane by A-Team. Quickly gets dealt with by CE, though. And Lufo is a hero that, or a player that we need to talk about a little bit more, right? He is actually a living legend in China. The amount of games he's won, the amount of plays he's made, both on support back in the days and, of course, on the ranged assassin role, is absolutely insane. But as of late, he hasn't really had it. You know, he hasn't really landed those home runs that really kept his team in the game, that gave them a lead. Yesterday, when they played the 1, they were getting absolutely dismantled, and Lufo was no difference.
Completely agreed. Completely agreed. He basically used to be an absolute beast, playing those Genjis, playing the Tracers. But for some reason, his team just started banning Genji every single game, and Lufo has been just
even when they were
stuck.
first pick too.
Exactly. And Lufo has just ended up stuck consistently on Phoenix, and he doesn't feel as impactful as, let's say, a hero like Hope. On this, on the exact same hero. It definitely doesn't feel like his playstyle. He's still good, but he's not a god. He's 1-0 short.
Yeah, exactly. You've mentioned Hope there from KT, who had an absolutely insane Phoenix a few days earlier, actually. And then we mentioned players like Lucky from SBT, right? They're looking absolutely insane on those heroes. Muggle even for the 1, who's a complete newcomer. And Lufo, one of the most seasoned veterans in the league, he just hasn't really had the punch. He just hasn't really had the impact that we're known to see from him. But not just the Phoenix, also his Hanzo felt a little underwhelming. But let's see, maybe he can prove us wrong today. Maybe he can bust out a really solid Phoenix overall. In the meantime, we see Junkrat pushing the bottom lane. Looks like A-Team is just happy with giving a little bit of tempo control over, as long as they maintain the soak in the bottom lane and push a little bit, prepare for that second tempo phase that is going to ensue very shortly.
Now the lane is pushed all the way up to towers. Junkrat leaves it. Lufo being forced to teleport away as Wind holds the line, at least for the moment. As 365 wraps around from the side, using all that cane damage. As KTY, good wrapper against Mount Fury, and Kaitu and Stukov gonna both go down here. Nice gank by KTY.
Yeah, they're using this opening, though, on the map to get a little bit of tempo control back in the middle. Like, Junkrat hasn't actually been participating at all in the early tempo phase here, and Urel basically was left alone there as well, so we can sneak in a little bit of extra bonus damage. So overall, despite losing 2 members there in the top half of the map, I think they're still doing mighty fine if you look at the overall experience count, right? Junkrat has actually been doing a really good job soaking in the bottom. Urel was taken out of tower in 2 here with that temple, so not everything is lost just yet for the A-Team. I think they're still looking mighty fine.
Mighty fine they look, and we keep accidentally drifting into Raynor's voice. As we do see the final shots heading onto that forward, it's looking very squishy, but it's alive, and that's the important part. No extra damage there at all as of yet. Camp is taken. Does look like CE were planning on an invade, but not happening this time. Mafiarum with a little, Junkrat with a quick route, thanks to his steel trap, preventing anyone from moving into that area.
Oh, and a touch of 2017 here. Do you see that banner? The E-Star banner? Good times. Yeah. It's really cool to see how some of the CE players still seem to have that nostalgia about Xingxi and his legendary boys.
I still rock it to this day on my Valor with also the 2017 bit reward mount, like that Storm Wolf with lightning that comes out of it. It perfectly matches with the Hunter Valor. It's perfect.
All right. By the way, you mentioned the Jimmy lingo, the Raynor quotes. Do you think we're going to see him today, or do you think any team is going to let him go through?
I think one team will let him go through. Some team's going to try and be silly, and it's going to get given over, and I get the feeling it's going to be given over to potentially a weaker team who thinks they can be cheeky. Whoever the stronger team is just going to let them have it. All
right. I'm looking forward to it already. There is, of course, a lot to be talked about Raynor. But we're going to keep that talk, we're going to keep that analysis for when it actually happens. So let's see when that's going to be the case, or if that's going to be the case at all today. For now, the level 10 has been reached for CE. They go for the Mighty Gust, as we said. No real surprises here. The Mighty Gust was actually used right now in the top lane. I think to keep the Haka away from him.
I think you might be right.
Bruiser.
Dahaka, though, is still
Oh.
going. Down goes Falstad. Let's see if they can get the counter kill. With Falstad down, KTY's going to try and kill off Jada. Point blank Riptire and a knockback. Jada escapes the minions. Not enough. Jada escapes. That is a 1-for-0. KTY gonna be a very sad Zerg.
So the one problem, of course, with that maneuver was the fact that, you know, first of all, Junkrat needs to go back to base. That also takes a little bit of time until he makes it all the way to the bottom. And if you look at it, there's still a 50-second cooldown on that Riptire now. So if they were to fully fight, you know, to fully commit over this temple, over this objective, then I think they would be in a little bit of a weaker state. But same can be said about Dahaka. Still a little bit of a cooldown on his isolation. Falstad is coming in here now. The Mighty Gus is ready just as we speak.
Still holding it for the moment, though, playing safe. Zhu prepared to disengage as much as he is to engage with this, in case anyone dies, as Wind does wind things and just tries to hold the point. However, he's in a rough position now. Root lands, he gets chucked out of the root, pops the avatar, and now his team begins to move in. Here comes Stay One, Listen gets denied by the lightning breath here. Instead, they just turn around and focus Diablo, just like, okay, if you're going to stand still, we'll damage him. But in comes Bruiser with that avenging wrath. And the extra armor, 45 armor on Diablo, but it might not be enough. Purification Salvo is enough to save Kaito here, as Bruiser just is his name and just tanks that front line.
You know what? That was actually a really, really good fight for the A-team. Like, Diablo was pressured quite a bit. Bruiser on that URL, he was pressured too. But the healing there, so well done by Stukov overall in that Malfurion. Great tranquility value. Although it was a little bit shut down by a solid Emerald cube by Decker Kane there as well. If you actually deny the healing from Malfurion on those regrowths, they're actually going to expire immediately almost, while the ability still goes on a normal cooldown, of course. So against healing over time, the Emerald Cube can be absolutely deadly, because even when the anti-healing expires, it's not going to go back to normal. The healing reduction will be permanent, so regrowth will have to be cast on the targets anew. So that's really, really nice.
That is really, really cool, as we do see Jaina moving up. Says hello to the top minion wave, clears that up very quickly. KTY, though, he's here. He's not going to miss that much XP. And as such, his team will hit level 13 very, very quickly here, with Tranquility also just coming off cooldown from Malfurion, so he feels a little bit safer with his team at that Merc camp, even though Muradin was actually hanging around a bit.
In the meantime, we see Urel going for that infamous full E build. So you go for the cooldown reduction, you go for the armor if cast on allied heroes at level 4, which is like a very supportive build, a very, very cool build if Urel needs to take care of the backline, if she needs to peel for allies in need. Very rarely in China, actually, do we see the Divine Steed, which is the go-to talent in most other regions for most other Irel players. And there is even a little bit of variety in terms of sometimes certain players in China will going for the hammer speed at level 7, right? While you're channeled with Irel's hammer, you gain movement speed.
In terms of Euro builds, I think this one is honestly my favorite. I always am a fan of utility, which is why I quite like Quicksilver, for example, on Karazim. Yep. If your teammates a little bit of that extra movement speed, can be such great utility. This one doesn't exactly get the movement speed, like maybe the Hand of Freedom, another Urel talent, this time on level 4 could give them, but that extra armor and the cooldown reduction to give it to them often. For starters, the extra cooldown means that you can dance around the map more, get better wave clear, get better slows, get better engage potential, but the extra armor, okay, Kaito zoning Lightning Breath, but the extra armor just gives your team such good fight potential, even if you arrive late to the fight, which as a solo laner, there's a good chance you will.
Yeah, very true. I fully agree with you. And the level 13 talent for Irel is also very interesting. It's something you don't really see every day. It is Valen's Chosen. So whenever Irel is hitting an enemy at full charge with one of her basic abilities, she gains 10% ability power. Now, this doesn't only affect her damage, although that's certainly very useful as well, but it also affects her self-healing, for example. So she will be even tougher to kill. Now, it looks like CE really wanted to commit to this Diablo gank here. The minus healing, the 75 minus healing has already been applied by the Emerald, but they fail to actually lock him down, and now it's Wind all of a sudden who's circumvented and surrounded by enemies. But here comes Juyu with yet more damage onto Diablo.
The Gust as well isolates Diablo, but Bruiser coming in out of nowhere with the body slam. with that hammer, and now Wind is in trouble. Concussion Mine separates him out. Here comes the Tranquility onto Kaito, giving them the chance to turn around onto Wind as Bruiser tries to zone away with Falstad and Greymane already dead. The damage output from these teams is significantly lower. The drag on Bruiser out of mid-air. Riptide coming in. Wind is in avatar form. He should be able to tank this. And he does. He's very tanky. Bruiser goes too deep and he goes down.
Yeah, Bruiser definitely got a little cocky there. He definitely thought they had that Muradin for sure on lock with the damage of that Riptire, but they didn't think about Decker Kane and Muradin's own, of course, self-healing and tankiness with that healing static. So, beautiful bait ultimately by Wind there, taking yet another life out of Irel, but still it was not a fight that A-Team didn't get anything out of, right? They were able to kill Falstad, they were able to get at least one kill, but now, of course, with that delayed and staggered death on Irel, the rotation towards that bottom temple, towards that top temple even, is completely delayed and broken. The rhythm has been broken, so let's see what they can actually do with it. Look at that, the top temple has almost been cleared entirely by the Dahaka, and keep in mind, guys, he's a global, so he could join his mates of CE here if need be.
KTY going deep here is KTY dragging the Urel who went deep here was just such a clutch move, being able to prevent the extra engages. You also very nearly gets engaged upon, but being able to prevent that, but also to get full value with that kill. I believe at this point his name stands for K. Thanks, Urel, as they are able to Dahaka will, like you said, be able to rotate down here very quickly. Kaito is playing quite greedily here by trying to move in on his own. His team finally starting to move with him. Dahaka tunneling where to? Where is he?
Yeah, he went all the way to the bottom, so no surprising sneaky angle or anything. I think A-Team pulled back in time. They realized, you know what, we're not even level 16. We definitely can't take this fight, especially not if Dahaka happens to surprise us from behind. So we're just going to pull back. We're going to try to take a mercenary camp maybe. But what they really need to do, and I'm glad they actually keep a couple of heroes close to the boss here, is the fact they need to make sure that CE doesn't get this boss for free, right? True, the better boss fighting potential is for CE, but there are still heroes like Irel, still heroes like Diablo who can maybe delay it a little bit more. Bruiser going in very aggressively here, by the way. The boss is still sitting at 50%, and I think they might have done it.
CE looks like the boss is still being attacked. The A-Team are the one doing it. And the fact is, I don't like what the A-Team are doing here. For starters, Trollnado, very much trolling Kaiju here. KTY in serious trouble, has to pop his S's. That drag, though, threads the needle, finds a Malfurion. Riptide has to be dropped for the turnaround. Bruiser's 1v1ing Juyu in the backline and is sort of winning. Gus has to be used here. Stay one and listen for the turnaround. And Luful sneaks around your own, but she gets the slam with the honored defender. Here comes Olele looking for another kill, gets it, but he goes down as well. What, 2 for 2? But finally, Urel drops. The boss gets leashed though, but that could have been avoided. I've said this before. You can do a nice little trick on this map where when you start the boss, you don't immediately start killing it. You drag it towards the opponent's side of the map. Especially when you have a hero like Dahaka. Dahaka got a huge drag onto Diablo when Diablo came to face check that push. If they drag the boss just to the edge of its leash point, towards the opponent's side of the map, they would have dragged Diablo right into the boss stun point, and he would not have been able to charge onto the enemy hero as quickly. He would have been CC'd, and they might have been able to pick up the kill.
Even as it is, though, once again, the A-Team doesn't win those team fights, but they're also not losing them horribly. True, they're losing them. Right now, another 2 to 3 trade against them. However, they are 2 levels behind, so usually they end up getting a little more experience per kill. So a 2 versus 3 trade is not the worst that could have happened to them, of course, but also not the most ideal outcome. So now with that 2-level lead, CE is going to play this very patiently. They're going to wait for the level 20, maybe force an engagement there at the boss again. And let's actually take a look at how many temples are available. 2 temples are available for the A-Team. And slowly but surely, if you look at the minimap, those keeps on the red team side are going to take some heavy, heavy damage. If they just let even 1 temple go through, the middle lane might be cracked eventually here. So it wouldn't surprise me if the A-Team, even potentially being down to level 20, would try to go for an all-in attack.
Wind taking the route here, tanking through, holding on to his avatar, being very patient, taking that risk. That slam by Urel coming in for round 2, just bouncing around the fight. Riptide does not get that much value. Dahaka with the gank though. Needs so much damage from the total mayhem though, but that gust with the stun from Wind. Purification! Salvo does huge work. Greymane is down. Kaito will fall. Down goes the Malfurion. And Kaito is just delaying. Actually, Kaiju is very nearly killing a Luthor. Luthor needs to be careful, but they still get the quadruple kill.
That they end up getting Tetcher, and it looked a little goofy at first glance, right? The valiant effort by A-Team here, or they actually tried to make it valiant, but they ended up falling all together, but they had to make a play. Sky Temple is not a map in which you can relax and wait for the late game. Sometimes with those temples active, you need to make something happen, as otherwise you're going to lose all those keeps. You're going to get starved out and overpowered eventually. And as it is, with that unfortunate team fight for the A-Team, CE is going to close out that game 1, and they're going to take victory on Sky Temple over the A-Team in a very well-deserved manner.
Game 1 over to CE, like you said, was a little bit messy in some scenarios. There's a couple times a Luthor did or nearly died. I will say, Bruiser was an absolute menace that game.
Yes.
From levels behind at some points, he was still just leaping on heroes over and over again, making the absolute most of that URL. And I'm sure, even though his team won, Zhuyu felt like he lost because he was just getting bullied there. Absolutely outplayed, and you can see the huge value of URL at the moment.
Absolutely true. Like Zhuyu in particular on that false set, he got pummeled